Hello and welcome to Movie Film Studios, the only podcast that takes you inside the mind of two film studio executives as we unravel and then re-revel the best that Hollywood has to offer. I'm Isaac.
And I'm AJ, and this week we travel to Sweden to track down a criminal duo who are masquerading as a beloved vaudeville act in the hopes of throwing off the scent of an extraterrestrial superhero who's trying to save the world. But before we get into something new, it's time for something old as we check in on our last feature in Box Office Report. Now, last episode, our first birthday spectacular, we created the film Changes, or Chivarenges.
Where the V and the N were replaced. A and an N.
A and the N.
V and an R. It's sort of, as we kind of discovered last week, when you try and blend multiple films into one, you get a bit of a hectic mess, and it turned out to be a little bit more like a virtual reality video game than a film.
Yeah.
One of the key elements was it was based on the music of David Bowie.
Yes.
And as soon as Duncan Jones found out about it, he insisted that the only way that he'd release the rights to his dad's life and works was if we brought him on as a director.
Okay. That's fine.
And so we did. He's coming off like a Netflix film, which wasn't the best film.
Yep.
But we're like, okay, we've got a prototype of the virtual reality system up. We'll show you what we've got so far. He plugged himself in, and we lost him. He's gone. He's lost somewhere in the...
Is he still there?
He's plugged in, but his consciousness is lost somewhere in the wasteland of the virtual reality system that we've created. We've been in there. We've searched all of the levels, but he's somehow fallen through the gaps. He seems to be enjoying himself.
Okay.
If that's like, the initial test run of it seems to be that the people who are participating, because the endorphin levels are off the scale, like in a way where it's kind of worrying. The scientists is like, people can't maintain this level of happiness for this long without having a massive crash. So we're a bit worried. We're monitoring his vitals.
Yep.
So
we've basically made the Matrix. Is this what you're saying?
A little bit.
Okay.
But like in a way where like... He seems to be having a good time.
Okay.
He's not not like in the Matrix where there's some splinter of reality which is slightly wrong.
Yep.
He's just
having fun.
Yeah, exactly. He's got no.
Surely this is costing us money to run and to.
Oh, power bill astronomical. It is essentially it is very much a very complicated life support system at this stage, drastically trying to keep Duncan Jones alive.
Right. You know how a while back we talked about the Netflix graveyard, which was where directors who'd had a bit of a flop film would go to sort of, give it a second chance. So Duncan Jones sort of had World of Warcraft, which was not great, then went to Netflix and did some weird film on there, Mute, which also did not do well. Is this the third level of graveyard now?
Possibly.
Do we bring them into like our system, which is technically a graveyard?
Possibly.
They're just... All right, so...
I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure if he legally classifies as being alive at this point. So potentially it is like not just a metaphorical graveyard, but potentially even a literal graveyard.
Okay, great.
His legal status is questionable at best. Hopefully, I mean, we're putting together a crack team of Stargate-style intrepid explorers who are going to go and try and fish his consciousness out of the beyond.
So you've got Richard Dean Anderson.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, okay,
Amanda
great.
Tapping and Christopher Judge.
Sure, why not?
Michael Shanks. Wow. I think we just actually named all 4 members of SG1. So
I think you have.
Any doubts over what I spent my teen years doing have now been cleared up.
All right. Hopefully that won't lead to any kind of legal problems. Anyway, on to this week in trailers. And first trailer for you today is... Let's go with Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel.
Starring Brie Larson.
And may we just say as well, happy birthday, Brie Larson.
Yeah, apparently it is her birthday today, so if you are listening, and I have no reason to doubt that she is, happy birthday, Brie. Also starring Samuel L. Jackson, who does not have a birthday today, but I'm pretty sure
he's got possibly a reverse birthday based on another one, as you pointed out, of Disney's favorite tropes of de-aging its characters. He shows up in this one, obviously playing... What's his name? Nick Fury.
Nick Fury, yeah.
Sans eye patch, and very much with the same sort of hairstyle that he was in 1994 in Pulp Fiction.
It did look like he was walking off the set of a Tarantino film. So Captain Marvel is set in the, I want to say, mid-90s,
You'd have
perhaps.
to expect the opening shot is of her crashing from space into a blockbuster video.
Yeah,
so
yep.
Yeah, sure. In the past, before everyone dissolved into ash, as Infinity Wars showed us.
So this is kind of a lead up to the second Avengers film, and if you haven't seen it, shit goes down in the first Avengers film, and right at the end, Nick Fury makes a call to makes a mysterious call to someone. It turns out it's Captain Marvel. So this is now their origin story, or the sort of introduction to the Captain Marvel character before she appears in the next Avengers film, whenever that is. So this is coming out before that.
I don't know anything about Captain Marvel in terms of the character from the comic books.
Yep.
A lot more space and time travel kind of things happening in this one than I thought. It actually looks a lot like the Green Lantern trailer, where they're wearing green suits in space and there's a whole bunch of aliens who are also part of a law enforcement society.
You're not that far away from the truth either. As far as I was aware, Captain Marvel is of extraterrestrial origins. Like, she is an alien. And there have been other Captain Marvels in the past, and they all come from outer space, and they're there to protect Earth. So they're meant to be like the ultimate power, I guess.
There was an interesting feature in this one where she was saying how she has memories of growing up on Earth, and like she's supposed to be here or she's from here, and she's not sure if those memories are real or implanted. And I kind of like the idea that when these memories show up, a character actually has the forethought to think these could be implanted memories. Whereas in every other film you see it, it's just like, no, these are definitely my memories, and I'm definitely not an android robot.
So are they going to age her for the second Avengers?
I imagine she's probably got a Clark Kent style, I'm an alien, I don't age quite like you.
So convenient, isn't it, Disney? You can de-age people, but you won't bother aging people now. Is that how it works?
I don't know.
Maybe that's an X-Men thing, isn't it, as well? Wasn't Wolverine a bit like that?
It just so happened that like the person they got to play Wolverine, Hugh Jackman, looked just as young and cut and pretty as he did in 1998. Or when the first one came out? 99?
99, I think.
Through 2017's Logan or whatever. He was like, you are pretty still buff. 20 years of being quite a cut, chisel-jawed Wolverine man. They did well. Yeah. Who could they have cast back in 1999, which it just would not have been a good casting?
I saw that image that floated around a while back, which was like, if the Avengers was made in the 90s, this is who would be cast. And it was like actors like Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt and all those sort of...
So Tom Cruise has aged quite well, but like, who do you reckon's gone the biggest undergone physical transformation from 1999 to 2016? So if he showed up as like the lean cut guy in 1999, by the time he shows up in 2018, Russell Crowe,
Mickey Rourke,
Mickey Rourke. I just remember that like the beer bellied Russell Crowe showing up to play Logan, and he's just like. Oh, to be fair, that's a little bit unfair for Russell Crowe. He got himself into pretty good shape for Superman.
He did, yeah. All right. Let's move on to the next trailer, which is The Girl in the Spider's Web, starring Claire Foy, Stephen Merchant, and foreign actors that we do not know.
Very much like... so this is supposedly the fourth... installment of the Millennium series, which began with Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, the girl who played with fire, the girl who kicked the hornet's nest, and the net as well. And then the author of those series, Stieg Larsson, died, and I think then his wife took over and wrote a book, and then
some other guy
one after
did
that
as well.
Yeah.
So and it is the other guy who wrote the book that this film is based on as well, but. The trailer's odd.
It is.
I know nothing about this film series, or very little about it, but it always seemed to skew on the side of like gritty, intense drama, espionage,
weird Scandinavian murder thriller.
Yeah, very grim and dark. But this film seems to go by like the Jason Bourne, James Bond.
And there's a little bit of Batman in there as well. A little bit of Batman, So Elizabeth Salander has taken on this bit of a vigilante role where she goes in and beats up men who beat up women, and she's like got weird face paint and almost like she is that superhero style thing.
Yeah.
And then, like you're saying, it's very Jason Bourne and James Bond. She's driving off
cliffs. There's like
cliffs and landing on icy water and using her motorbike to drive across the water,
it, like
firing guns. Her evil long lost sister has come along and is wearing a gas mask with glowing red eyes as if she is a supervillain. It has taken an incredible twist in a way.
Gadgets as well. There was a bit there where I think she operates another car's airbags or something from a mobile phone. So she's like
Oh, she's a hacker.
Yeah,
you can hack into smart cars and do this now, AJ. This is technology that exists.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Definitely.
Well, there you go.
But also in a way where Rooney Mara and Daniel Craig are also missing from the film in a way where I don't know who paid for and made this film, because it's definitely not. Who directed the other one? Was it like David Fincher or someone of that?
Yeah, I think David Fincher directed Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and then I'm not sure what happened to the series after that, because I know that I don't even know what happened to the original Swedish series as well.
They got all the way through the first three.
Oh, they did.
Whilst
Okay.
Seaglassen was still alive.
Yep.
And Numi Rapace.
Yes, she was
Rapace
playing Lisbeth
Salander.
Salamander.
The Salamander, which I think is the name of her superhero character in this one. I am the Salamander. So they got through all those books. I quite liked the Daniel Craig version in a way where I also liked the original version as well. They were both very good, which is, you normally don't say of remakes. You say, oh, the remake's not any good, or the foreign ones are unwatchable. Yep. In this case, both of them are quite good and quite watchable films. They have subtly different endings, and they handle the subject matter really, really well. Yep. But in a way where this just doesn't feel like it has anything to do with it. It is literally just cashing in on the characters and the renown of the original series. They call it another film in the Dragon Tattoo series.
Yes.
And I'm like, well, it's called the Millennium series. Like, that's what the books are called.
Yeah, but it's for Americans and for other audience members that don't know the Millennium series, because it's never mentioned in the films as far as I'm aware. It's always
Millennium is the name of the newspaper that the Daniel Craig's character writes for. And I think the subsequent books are more to do with his being investigated for, like... this is the thing. It becomes political, where it's like, have you published things that you shouldn't have published? I'm like, this isn't running around with explosions going down corridors and having to jump into bathtubs full of water to stop yourself from being burnt by giant explosions.
Gratuitous slow motion jump into a bath when an explosion goes off behind you. It's just like, this is weird. This is really bizarre. And it's a Sony film, so you know that it's all about, like, we've got these characters now, let's just jam something together.
If we have to make a film, otherwise the rights
lapse.
So we'll just make whatever we want.
So, we can't get Rooney Mara anymore. Claire Foy, she's on top of things right now. She seems to be pretty popular. We'll get her instead. Can't get Daniel Craig. Stephen Merchant, he's also
exactly
British.
He's pretty much the same.
Yeah,
pretty
exactly
much the same.
Stephen Merchant will be the new Bond.
Absolutely.
You mark my words. All right, on to the final trailer for this week's episode, which is
Stan and Ollie, based on the lines of Laurel and Hardy.
Laurel and Hardy, the old-time vaudeville actors from America, did a lot of silent films. I guess sort of in the same kind of realm as Charlie Chaplin, possibly the
Marx Brothers,
Three Stooges as well.
Stooges.
Though I believe that Laurel and Hardy sort of moved more towards silent style humor. Yeah. But you know the characters. One's quite large and sort of
both tall and rotund.
Tall, yeah, tall and rotund with a sort of pencil mustache.
Yep.
And the other one is
normally wearing a bowler hat. I think
bowler hats as well.
I think they both wear bowler hats, to be fair.
Yep.
And then the other one's short and skinny.
Yep.
In this case, they're played by John C. Reilly as I imagine it's some sort of prosthetics.
Gotta be prosthetics.
Because otherwise he's put on a lot of weight.
Very unhealthy.
And then Steve Coogan.
He's not in prosthetics.
No, but his accent might as well be. Because he's having to put on an American accent. This feels like it's an English film where they've cast English people to play Americans for the most part. Even
except John C. Reilly.
John C. Reilly is the only exception to that rule. Everyone else who seems to be playing like the wife of...
the story... So this is kind of like, as they say in the trailer, the untold story of Laurel and Hardy. So at some point they journey to England to put on a bunch of live shows. They're very popular in the US, and they're sort of exporting their comedy now to the motherland.
And then the relationship
disintegrates,
begins to fray and falls apart, and people aren't coming to their shows anymore, and there's a whole bunch of tension there, and it's just the story of how they find each other. I don't know.
It is. It's. I don't know the full story of Laurel and Hardy, but it is sort of along those lines, as well as like the health problems of. I don't know. I can't remember which one's which, but like I want to say Laurel is the fat one,
sure.
And he has. Various health problems related to his weight as well, and so it's all a bit of a drama. This and
I mentioned this when we were watching it, that they tend to be dredging up a lot of untold stories. I don't like, where are they getting these from?
I don't know.
It's like some sort of book sale, and it's like, oh, this is a journal from Laurel and Oliver or whatever. whatever their names are. And it's just like, oh, this is actually an untold story, rather than going, or do they go, you know what, we're not going to tell that just yet. We've known about it for about 30 years, and we're gonna hold off until the time is right. But they said like everyone, like the untold story of Mary Poppins, the untold story of Frankenstein, the untold story of
Walt Disney,
just all of them.
The untold story of movie film studios. We haven't told that story yet because we're waiting for the right time to cash in on it.
Because I feel like every week we just broadcast as much information as we possibly can.
That's the told story, not the untold one.
That's the told story.
I mean, surely like any story that hasn't been told is an untold story.
I kind of feel like the untold story should just say also the made up story. Why was it untold? Because it just wasn't true. It just wasn't true. That's really why no one was telling it up until now.
Exactly. All right, those are the 3 trailers for this week's episode. But of course, before we can do anything with those, we're going to have to take a little walk over to the green room.
Let's go.
All right, let's have a quick recap of this week's trailers. We have
a superhero alien action movie installment of a franchise.
Yep, another Marvel film, another Disney film.
We have a bizarre take on an existing book franchise that just goes off in a really weird direction with actors that shouldn't belong in those roles.
Recast actors, let's say.
Let's do
recast roles. And finally, we have an
untold biopic about a period comedy duo.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I chose not last week because our listeners chose those ones, but before that I chose. So I believe it's your turn. What have you got for us this week?
I already know. Well, as soon as I watched the trailer and went, what the F are they thinking? The girl in the spider's web,
for sure.
where they just gone, you've really just not paid any respect at all to the source material.
To be fair, we don't know the source material, so they might not have. But like in the style of like what has come before it, it's really a sharp turn off the beaten track.
And I really feel as though we can do the same thing. We can pick up
We absolutely can.
Where they've made the first book of a film franchise.
Yep.
They've kind of gone, we didn't really do well enough to make the next ones.
Yep.
And then this is like, imagine if part 4 existed and how weird and wacky we can turn that.
Yeah, it's almost like fan fiction. Someone has done fan fiction for like the Dragon Tattoo series and just gone, you know what if it had more guns?
That's exactly how it feels, yeah.
You know, it's imagine if you had like, there's 7 Harry Potter books in the main series. Like, imagine if someone wrote book 8 it just turned into like an action film.
There are apparently some very, very good fan fiction books.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
That, do the rounds. But yeah, very much someone's gone, I'm going to troll the internet for... and that's what they did for 50 Shades of Grey, right? And all that sort of thing. So this is the fan fiction version of some existing intellectual property. Are we going to have to 50 Shades of Grey it? Where instead of going, okay, well, this used to be Bella and... Edward.
Yep.
We just have to rename them because we don't have the intellectual property rights.
I don't know. I like the idea of taking the same characters and just moving them into a totally different genre. And I feel like we need to either take it from a book or from a film series as well.
I think we'll do the book.
We do a book?
Book series.
Right.
And I'm thinking...
Yep.
Chronicles of Narnia.
Chronicles of Narnia, because they've done films of that too.
They've done many. Like, I grew up watching, there was a late 80s, early 90s BBC TV series.
Yep.
With these actors in weird prosthetics.
Yeah. Yep.
We had a videotape of that we watched The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe probably about 400 or 500 times.
Yeah.
To the point where it actually had the magnetic strip, tracking marks. Like, you'd pause it and the people just sort of like flickering back and forth like they were trying to escape from the screen.
Yep.
That VHS copy was very, very well loved.
All right, so we do the next like Chronicles of Narnia film.
There's a lot of them, and some of them don't get made. So they make The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe quite a lot. I think Prince Caspian comes after that.
Yep.
Voyage of the Dawn Treader.
Yep.
And they tend to get to about that point where the interest wanes. There's I think a book called The Magician's Nephew, which I don't think has ever made it to the silver screen.
Yep.
But yeah, I think very much we just take this idea of a hidden world, a godlike lion character and a bunch of kids who somehow get stuck in there, and we just crank it up. Just ramp it up.
Now, I like, what did you say about the nephew's magician? The magician's nephew?
Something like that.
Which sounds like a terrible title, to be honest, but I like that. I feel like we should adapt that into a film. But I don't think it's even necessary.
I think
to
that's
read.
the prequel. I think we really have to do the fan fiction version that doesn't exist within the world. But I think what The Magician's Nephew does, I think, is it sets the story before The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Yep.
So we do a prequel. I think we like...
Do a prequel to The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
So The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe starts when Narnia is frozen over by the Ice Queen.
Sure.
Because she wants it to be always winter, never Christmas. And so maybe that's the end point of what we're probably going to be calling The Magician's Nephew, right?
Yep.
And then Aslan... it disappears. So all we need to know is the road marker is the final stop.
Yep.
White Queen takes over, freezes over Narnia.
Yep.
Aslan is like, he's the hero that Narnia needs, but not the one that he wants, and he has to skulk off into the darkness.
Yep.
Only to come back when the kids return.
Yep.
Sure. And that's all we need to know. That's it.
So what I'm seeing here, feel free to shoot me down if necessary, but what I'm seeing here is a post-apocalyptic world a la Mad Max.
Yes.
Where, like, the Queen is fighting over the control of this land.
Yes.
Against 2 or 3 other factions
who are
also competing for it as well.
I love it. Are we doing a la Mad Max where it is a desert and there are spiky cars?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
All right. Okay, great. Because I think she has a sleigh that's pulled by reindeer.
Yeah.
Is this the fantasy version of Mad Max?
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
where instead of being automobiles, it's either cars with horses or chariots.
But they all have spikes on them as well. So
spikes
it's
as far as you can see.
Because we are still respective of the that new Dragon Tattoo film, right? Still has Lisbeth in the same outfit that she's wearing.
You know what I've got images of here as well, and I think it's because of the lions. That scene in Gladiator where the tigers come out of the pit, and it also has the Gladiator chariot races that have all the spikes as well.
Yep.
So can we put some sort of like Thunderdome-esque arena battle style elements into this one as well?
But I don't want it to be like Gladiator, which had that sort of glitz and glamour of the Colosseum back in the day. It needs to be like crudely made, hobbled together from like bits and pieces left over from some previous war or something. And you know what that means as well. We can do the prequel to the prequel at some point where we go back before the post-apocalyptic
pre-apocalyptic.
and see how it all went wrong.
Would it be pre-post-apocalyptic?
Yeah.
Interesting. No, it's just pre-apocalyptic. So we see post-apocalypse. We see just regular life. And then I suppose Armageddon is the apocalyptic event. So
you need to have pre-apocalypse and then apocalypse and then post-apocalypse.
So the middle one would just be apocalypse now. All right, okay. So it's post-apocalyptic, spiky racing, gladiatorial, factions vying it out. One of them is the tribe of lions.
Yep.
We can do what if Aslan had a son? And maybe at some point the reason that he goes into exile is because of either his son dies or his son does something weird.
Perfect.
We have the witches, a group of witches. Why not?
Witches,
And maybe because only the Ice Queen remains, but originally there was a Water Queen and a Fire Queen and a Land Queen, and they're all witches as well. And so we have some battling there. And who's our third faction in there?
The wardrobe people.
The carpenters.
There you go.
There's a faction of skilled artisans who make magical artifacts.
Yep.
And maybe they're in trouble. Like, maybe we do that as well.
How about
that's a great idea. They have to hide these powerful artifacts in the real world to stop them getting in the hands of the witches. And that's where these things come from.
So what if they only made wardrobes that just were portals?
Yeah.
Right, so that was they don't make any other magical items, but they make useful portals out of wardrobes. And then it just gets to the point, and this is how the book in the next film would be The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Yeah.
See how it's all singular?
Exactly.
It's not the lions, the witches, and the wardrobes.
No.
It's singular.
Because only one of each
survives. Exactly. So let's say that the carpenters made a whole bunch of wardrobe portals that were pretty commonplace. You'd buy them, just to make things more convenient for you in a day-to-day world.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to go to the shops. I can just step through the wardrobe and portal there.
Portal. Yeah, exactly.
There's a whole bunch of interesting fight scenes you can do with that as well. I'm sure there's Inception does that do a thing where they dive through and they...
Yeah, Avengers did it as well with Spider-Man jumping through portals.
Doctor Strange opens up portals and sends people places. I like that.
Game series called Portal as well.
Yeah, exactly. Which is pretty much where the best of comes from, where you jump through and like, oh, gravity's weird here. I didn't expect that, or I'm falling. Your
momentum carries through as you jump through a portal.
Yeah.
So, I think that's the world used to be rife with portals, but now we're getting down to the last remnants of these resources. So the last of the witches, the last of the wardrobes, and the last of the lions.
Yes.
And everyone's fighting for factional control over these items or these
Right, okay. So, and we have the 4 witches that represent each of the elements.
Yep.
We have the Aslan and his son.
Yep.
Which again we can come up with a name.
Doesn't
and
matter.
Then we have the portal makers.
Yep.
Is there a guild? Is there some sort of
I think they're a guild, yeah.
So is there we need a character from that guild to be the entry point into our world. Who is that character? What's their backstory? How did they get into cabinet making?
What we need to do first of all with the name is we just look at existing names in that world and come up with something that sort of sounds like something that exists in the world. So we've got Mr.
Tumnus.
Edmund Rillian. There's one of the... I've never read these books, by the way.
Peter, Edmund, Lucy, and...
Eustace?
Sarah, I think...
Oh, yeah. Susan,
sorry.
Edmund, Lucy, and Peter.
They're from the human world, the real world.
We don't care about
that.
So
we've got Tumnus. Rumble Gruffin is a giant, I think.
Miraz,
sure. Mr. and Mrs. Beaver.
Eustace Scrub.
So this is the thing as well, which I sort of forgot in here, is that there's live action animals, right? They're all sentient. There's also dryads and fauns and why don't the cabinet makers, the carpenters, maybe they are beavers? Because beavers play a pretty prominent role later on.
Really?
Yeah, they help out the kids in Narnia.
All right.
So we have these sentient animal creatures who are obviously...
This is good. This ties it well into the world of Narnia to show that we are being respectful to the source
We definitely
material.
know the source material back to front.
All right, so they're beavers that make wardrobes.
Yeah. No,
wardrobes, rather.
There's wardrobes. I think they also do grandfather clocks and any
general...
piece of furniture that's made out of wood that has a door that you can sort of open up and step through.
All right, so anything that... I mean, it'd be doors then, wouldn't it?
Yeah, no, but doors it's sort of it's like a contained space.
Yeah. Okay, so clocks, wardrobes, cupboards, general cupboards and shelving.
I think, do we get to tie in then the Indian and the cupboard? Is that an intellectual property that can fit within here as well? Was that... hang on, no, the magic in that one was the key. It wasn't the cupboard itself. No, it Sorry, wasn't. Scrap that.
Because there's part of me that was thinking, I wonder if we can, just jam in a couple of extra film properties in here in a kind of, fire sale of, film series that we've just got.
See, the other one that came to mind which was a film that they made the first one of that they abandoned was Northern Lights or The Golden Compass, depending on where...
Sure.
And that has giant talking bears in it. So why not a faction of giant talking polar bears who are... sort of also sort of maybe they're on the team of the giant talking lions. And then we sort of go, well, this is, if you wanted that more of that story, which they never told, why don't you jump on board with this one as well?
All right, how about this maybe? So if, let's say the polar bears aren't part of the existing factions that are fighting, squabbling amongst each other for resources, but they're a brand new threat that comes in and invades with winter.
Exactly. The Winter Queen is turning everything to ice because the polar bears want her to.
Exactly. So the story then just becomes the separate factions having to work together to try and take on this new polar bear winter menace. But in the end, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work. And that's how they all die out. It's a very sad ending.
It is. It's the Rogue One ending of Narnia.
It's the Avengers... Infinity Wars Part 1.
Only in that one they only kill off 50% of the people. In ours we kill off
85%. That's us raising the stakes.
It's almost like dark chocolate, where you start off with the 50% dark chocolate until you're used to it, and then you just up the level of cocoa until you're
until you're just crunching on beans.
I really just eating the cocoa beans straight. Society is not at that level yet. We did Rogue One, we did Avengers. We're going to up it again and kill just slightly more people and desensitize the film-going public to killing off their heroes.
Has there ever been a film that does 100% death and just wipes out its own world and people by the end of the film? There's always that sort of annoying 1% glimmer of hope.
Yeah, ray of hope.
Yeah, stupid Armageddon.
I was thinking Outbreak, but again, they find a cure in that one. Contagion. Well, there's one that they did with Gwyneth Paltrow and Channing Tatum and a whole bunch of people where it was Outbreak, except where just people died left, right, and center. I think Matt Damon might have been in that one.
Really?
And just like all like, oh, Matt Damon's in it, and like 20 minutes in is like, oh no, he died because he caught the disease, and then we start following Channing Tatum, and then we start following Gwyneth Paltrow, and eventually like they find a cure, but like by that point, a lot of humanity's dead.
Yeah, but that's still like a good 5% of people still
true.
alive. I mean, we can't do that because then we'd be breaking the source material. We need to leave.
Exactly.
But we need to like it. I mean, it's really like the last 1% because it is just like the singular lion, the singular witch, and the singular wardrobe that's left.
You know what? I've just figured it out.
Yep.
It's not Aslan's son.
No?
Aslan is the son.
Like the actual son?
No. He's the son of like a Mufasa type character.
Ah, okay.
And this is like Mufasa like sacrifices himself for young Aslan.
Yep.
And then Aslan has to go off into the wilderness, and this is his return, like the return of the Lion King. So like so this is like, you know, this is the young Aslan as a cub learning from all the light touches your kingdom or whatever, and then after his dad dies in the polar bear wars, he goes off and then has to come back later as the Aslan that we know and love.
Perfect. In this post-apocalyptic faction-based world, and he comes back to like restart the world, fix it back up. In The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, he bands everyone together in an army against the White Queen. And, and he literally breathes life into statues. Right.
He like walks up to these because the witch has turned them into stone using her magic, and he breathes on them, which is good enough to turn them back into real people again.
Okay, that's
you
fine.
know that old trope.
Sure. Yeah. It's very common. All right. I feel we need to push the film a little bit further into like.
We've got world and we've got character, and we've got events, but where's the story? Where's the relationships? Where's the growth and change within the characters themselves?
Yeah. All right, so we need to have maybe a central protagonist for each of the factions, perhaps?
Yeah.
So a singular beaver, a singular witch, and I think all three of them need to die as well.
Yeah, so we have, but I think Aslan is one of the main characters from The Lion, and his dad's the one who dies.
Yep.
Well, obviously the Ice Queen turns bad.
Yep.
Is this the Ice Queen's sister, who's the good version? Is she the water witch, or
is it like a Maleficent kind of thing where like she's not so bad at the start and turns?
Oh, it could be the Wicked. You know how we think the Wicked Witch of the West is really wicked, but she's actually a good character if you look at it from a different vantage point.
Yeah. From a certain point of view.
From a certain point of view.
I like that idea. I like the idea that like these characters aren't just two-dimensional villains, as they're presented in Narnia. They're actually like
complex characters,
complex depth, drama. They have thoughts and feelings and goals and hopes and dreams and ambitions. So what if we did that instead? Like we characterize these people as like they have hopes. They have good intentions.
I really want to get back to the gladiatorial arena at some point. And I think so. We have them all together. They're living in this world, which is an event has happened, which has made it difficult for them. And that's the apocalypse, the one for we're now post-apocalypse, but there's also another oncoming apocalypse. So there was a desertification apocalypse, and then there was a icification apocalypse that's coming, and we're in that interstitial point between those two.
Exactly.
Maybe they start going off on a journey, and they're captured, and then they're put into this gladiatorial arena. And they have to fight one another. And this is where friendships become tested.
Yes.
Where the White Queen, the Ice Queen, whatever, I can't remember exactly what the character's called.
Doesn't matter.
And Aslan used to be the best of friends. Suddenly, in this environment, they're
forced to like compete against each other. And I think as well, to add to this whole like left turn sort of thing that we're going for in terms of like taking the Narnia series and going in a slightly different direction, gratuitous violence.
Oh, absolutely.
In the Colosseum needs to feature. Like absolute limbs hacked off, blood spurts, like guts and intestines coming out of like cuts and eviscerations and all sorts of stuff.
This is where the spiky chariots come in, and we see it all. We see the guy just get cut in half. Super realistic, like intestines and entrails and stuff like that flying everywhere.
There's a scene where someone like throws someone else onto the spiky wheels, and then they get attached there and keep like rolling around as it's dragged around the arena as well, and like bits are flying off everywhere. Just the kind of like it is Narnia. It is definitely the characters you recognise, but definitely not in a context that you recognise.
Yeah.
So,
and we've got to get explosions in there as well.
Oh, yeah, for
Lots
sure.
of explosions everywhere.
Magic explosions cover up the fact that TNT doesn't exist in this world.
Exactly,
So,
but magic does.
But magic does, absolutely.
And then I just like, I love that Inception style, Doctor Strange style portal fighting.
Portal fights, yep. So who's going to be... Yeah, it's the beavers, right? So, like, they...
So the beaver, like we've just gone, instead of Mr. Beaver in as he is in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, he's Dr. Beaver.
That's right, yeah.
And he does the same hand motions that Doctor Strange does, and opens up portals.
What with beaver hands?
But with these little beaver hands, yeah.
All right, cool. I like this as well because it reminds me of like Star Wars, in A New Hope, where they reference all these things that happened prior.
Yeah.
In just like nicely vague ways, you're like, that sort of sets your imagination going. And then you watch the prequels and you're like, that's not what I imagined at all.
It's not what I imagined at all. But and it's way too complicated and over the top.
Yeah, and also it doesn't quite make sense in the context of the story that's told afterwards, but that doesn't matter. Like
so long as it makes a whole bunch of money, and there has to be a lot of merchandising opportunities as
absolutely.
well. I think that's the one thing that we probably haven't been doing so much recently. Is really going, how are we going to turn these characters into action figures?
What's great, because you release the Colosseum action set, right? But you do it in separate pieces. So you buy, you do it like Lego do, right? So Lego will have a range.
Are Lego going to buy this? Sure.
Definitely.
They buy everything.
They buy everything at the moment. So like if you're doing a Lego set, you buy one set, which is just like the Colosseum set, you get a couple of minifigures, and then you get like all the expansion bits for it, all the chariots, the action chariots, the little like set pieces that you have inside the Colosseum where certain deaths are happening, like the pits, I don't know how you can do portals in Lego form.
It's true. I can definitely see like the Saturday morning ads between the cartoons. It's like, his head really pops off. That's and there's blood that spurts out everywhere.
With a little like notice down below and saying like simulation or simulated action or something.
Blood and gore refillments not included. so like this is the thing. So you sell like these capsules of fake blood and you can just put them inside the action figures. And
exactly.
So every time their arm gets ripped off, it looks just as gory and painful as it does in the film.
And we'll have a service like Barbie and I think like the Baby Borns used to have, when if you cut off their hair, you can order in new replacement heads.
I didn't realize you could order replacement heads. My sisters just had a whole bunch of very weird looking baldish Barbies.
I'm pretty certain that like Mattel had those services back in the day for like if you accidentally did.
I definitely remember in like the Lego sets that I bought when I was about 10, there was a massive thick manual of like all the replacement parts that you could order, and they all had like a 10-digit serial code.
Right,
and so if you wanted to go through, I'm like, I need that slight little twig. I can send off and replace it. I don't remember that manual with the Barbies that my sisters definitely had.
I think it was just
definitely
a hotline. It's just a hotline you could call up, and like if you ruined your Barbie or your G.I. Joe, you could get replacement bits for it, or your parents could. I don't know. So yeah, I think that's what's going to have to happen for our series of action toys. So yeah, just like insane violence. I don't even know. I mean, this is possibly heading towards a hard R rating as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which makes me wonder how we're going to market this to children and have a toy range as well. But I suppose stranger things have happened. I mean, The Matrix was rated M or something. And
something along those lines.
Like action figures.
I think if kids beg their parents like often enough and they go, it's a Narnia film, like just let me go watch it.
Okay.
They'll just let
That's
them go.
what we should bank on, actually. People just not knowing
exactly,
or like
this is the point.
Assuming that like it is a particular kind of film, and we'll cut the trailers in such a way that sort of
it looks very innocuous. So it's like, it's a happy land with lots of talking magical beaver characters.
It's like, they're fun.
and then they get to the Saving Private Ryan levels of gore and disgust. That just like, what are my kids watching?
That is like the best benchmark for this film as well. Like the gritty colours of the
to be fair,
drained colour palette.
The first movie I ever remember not being allowed to watch because I wasn't old enough. This is pretty much the Bambi of our generation.
Yeah.
It is it's the film that kids will remember going, this is what I learnt what death and destruction was. The hunter killed Bambi's mother or father. I don't remember which one it was because my eyes were filled with tears. This is what we're going to do to kids. I love it.
Yeah. Just scar them for life.
See, normally this is the point where we go, we're going to have to come up with a
name.
A name for the film.
Yeah.
But it's already called The Magician's
Nephew, which we haven't referenced at all.
And I love that.
In the story.
I really love the fact that it's called The Magician's Nephew, and everyone's going, "Why is it called that?" It's like, well, we're not going to tell you. We do need to cast.
We do.
And I think just because it is her birthday.
Yep.
Brie Larson.
Brie Larson for sure.
Definitely can be in this film as
the Ice Queen.
Yeah, sure, a young Ice Queen. That's not too bad.
Great. The Beavers will do with CGI, obviously.
Yeah, we still need voices.
We still need voices for them.
So we're going to do the Beavers with CGI, but then do Aslan as a person in a lion costume. Is that a weird blend of like practical and special effects that you don't really see?
It's a pointless blend, so yes, we will do that. I was thinking Tony Shalhoub for one of the Beavers for some reason.
Yeah, that can work.
Just popped into my head. Maybe he's like the protagonist Beaver. He's like the Doctor Strange Beaver who does all the portally stuff in the Colosseum. Was it the Prince Aslan?
Aslan, yeah, young Aslan. We can just get Jonathan Taylor Thomas back in
from Home Improvement.
Yeah, from Home Improvement, but also did the voice of Simba in the original Lion King. So
right, great.
I think that's a good one.
Can we also then get, if we're going along with the Lion King thing, let's get Matthew Broderick in there at some point.
Matthew Broderick,
he did the adult Simba in the Lion King. Yeah, that's true.
That also means we need to get James Earl Jones in to do like the lion grandfather, which I don't think was ever a part of the Lion King, but that's sure. So Jonathan Taylor Thomas is playing young Aslan.
Yep.
Matthew Broderick is playing his dad.
Yep.
And then James Earl Jones is playing his dad. So we can get them all in there.
But James Earl Jones' part is just a cameo, right? In the same way that like he cameos in Rogue One. We'll just have him just sort of in there, breathing heavily, and then dies.
Yeah, sure. Exactly. Like, we can probably even open up on the shot of the death of the grandfather lion.
Yeah, great. Like his last word, and then like
there is another. Oh, that's actually not.
No. What James Earl Jones needs to do is reference the apocalyptic event that happened beforehand,
because he's the only one. I like his mane being white. I like his eyes being milky and blind.
Yep.
And he's the only person who remembers before the desertification of Narnia.
Yeah. He's the Ben Kenobi of our story,
exactly,
talking about the Clone Wars, and then when we flash back and do the prequel films, nothing that he says will make any sense in the context of the film that we make. So we'll do that.
And we can get Donald Glover to play a young James Earl Jones.
That's right. We'll do that. Okay. Do we need anyone else? There's someone? The witches. We haven't got the witches yet.
Oh, we've got Brie Larson as the main witch. Whoever
the lion, and we've got the lion, and we've got the beavers.
Who's playing the wardrobe? The wardrobe obviously doesn't have a voice.
No.
Yeah, no. Actually, no. We need there's going to be a King Nemesis polar bear who's invading.
Yep.
And I think Ian McKellen may have done his voice in The Golden Compass, so we'll just bring back him.
Yeah.
And if I'm just remembering completely incorrectly, then it just goes to show that it wasn't important, and Ian McKellen can come back for this one as well.
Exactly. The one thing I also think we need to do right at the end, a la Star Wars Episode 3, is just make a dramatic, like, art style and direction change that, like, really hastily ties it into the next film in the series, which is The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So just for no reason at all, the art aesthetic changes, the style of the film changes, all the gratuitous violence disappears.
All the chariots, like, they're just like, we're going to have to take all these points off these chariots because it just doesn't fit in with the style that we've got in in the next film.
In the last 5 minutes, the style of the film changes dramatically.
Yeah. I am Ulrich Polar Bear and I outlaw spikes on chariots and horses. It's like, what do you want instead? Just jingle bells. Put on the jingle bells. And then, like,
and then it becomes a Christmas story after that. That's it.
Narnia is, I don't know if you remember, Father Christmas does show up at one point and give them all presents. So
yeah, well, that's it. The last 5 minutes of our film are dedicated to like really hastily making sure that it fits into the next film in the series. All right, great, and that's it. I think that's a wrap.
I think you're right.
The Chronicles of Narnia, The Magician's Nephew, the prequel to The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. All right, I think that is a wrap. Housekeeping, as per usual. We are online at moviefilmstudios.net, where you can find all of our previous episodes, Mofursa Woodada, our database of films that we've created on this podcast, and our bios and some other bits and pieces that we put up on there. Search Facebook for Movie Film Studios and join the community where we post clues as to the trailers that we've watched in the upcoming episodes. And then we also occasionally ask you for suggestions for stuff to do in future episodes as well. How are you going to go this week?
Not too bad. I reckon Girl in the Spider's Web should be easy enough. Stan and Ollie, two people's names. Good work. I'm not even sure that's going to work with the translate clue. Captain Marvel's possible as well.
Yeah.
I think we'll be all right.
What if we just hit Facebook this week and just find everyone in the world that's called Stan, everyone in the world's called Ollie. Just invite them.
Yeah,
to the
friend
page.
them.
Yeah, that's right. And that'll be the clue for this week. We are on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, YouTube, and any other place that you get podcasts from. And I think that's it.
All that remains is to thank you once again for listening this week. I've been Isaac.
And I've been AJ.
Roll credits.
March winds and April showers.